StockPulse News Debrief. Talking Vox Royalty Corp today. Vox trades as VOX in the Toronto Venture Exchange, VOXCF on the OTCQX in the States. And I've got with me now the CEO and the founder, Kyle Floyd. Kyle, appreciate you taking the time here. You've got a nice deal on the books here I want to talk about. But maybe before we do, I want you to get back here and talk about how you put this company together. Being the founder, I thought it was pretty interesting. So please take a step back here and walk us through how you put the deal together.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rob, thanks for having us on, and a pleasure to be on the program and in front of your viewership and your audience. So Vox Royalty Corp, its initial days were founded out of my days as an investment banker, and I financed the mining industry, over $1 billion of capital raising, advised really across the spectrum from junior players to mid-tiers, and really representing the investors in that interface. And frankly, it was during my time as an investment banker and having worked with a lot of the royalty companies and really everyone across the spectrum. But it was honestly a very difficult time because you have a lot of investors that want exposure to commodities that were not technical experts. They weren't mining engineers, they weren't geologists, but they wanted leveraged exposure to commodities. And honestly, they also wanted a protected downside. The reality is that's very, very difficult for most of the commodity sector and mining industry to offer investors. And so a lot of the generalist investors were putting money into opportunities that were really difficult for them to understand, the risks and the returns. And so the risk adjusted returns were not what they expected. And so it was my time of advising in the royalty space that I realized that this was a far superior model, mostly for the generalist investor that wanted that leverage with a little bit more protection and less risk. And they didn't want to have to be geologists and mining engineers or metallurgists. They wanted someone doing that hard work for them. And so founded the company back in 2014, have been in the space for over 10 years. I went to a group of investors that had been with us and with me and investing for a period of time and said, look, I think we can create alpha in the royalty sector. Here's how we're going to do it. The business model has evolved over time, but it was really centered around the investor and solving a problem for investors, which is how do I get the exposure that I'm actually after in the commodity sector? And this was long before inflation was top of mind for anybody. This was 2013, 2014. Inflation was relatively low in those days. And commodities weren't probably, the shining star, certainly at that point in history. But it was made, this company was built for where we are today, which is inflation, economic uncertainty, rising rates, rising challenges, everything that we're facing with all the volatility that comes around it. Vox was made for today and for the investor looking for the type of exposure that we offer today. So it's a really unique time, and it's a great point in history for us to be speaking and bringing investors more awareness around Vox. But that was the origins of the business. So I founded it, and then since we've acquired a company called Mineral Royalties Online and really bolster our team over the last few years. So we have 6 full-time individuals, mining engineers, geologists, capital market specialists, really well-rounded team that, all kind of purpose-driven, mission-built company to solve the, how do we create alpha in the commodity sector for investors? And I think we're doing it really, really well.
Yeah, and speaking of here, you had a quite the piece of news here to kick off the year today. Why don't you run through the highlights here for investors?
Yeah, this is a really, I will call it a once in a lifetime deal, but we built a business model to find once in a lifetime deals kind of every year. This is a royalty package that covers essentially 50 million gold equivalent total resource. That's a project operated by Sibanye. Stillwater, was in production as recently as 2008, 2009. It has full infrastructure built. This is, really has the shapings as it comes back online into production, which we expect to happen in the next 2 to 5 years, is kind of a long stop date based on Sibanye Stillwater, the $10 billion operator's public disclosure. This is an absolute monster. I can't remember another royalty company in the last decade acquiring a royalty over 50 million ounces of resource, gold equivalent resource. So it's huge. This is mainly a Platinum Group's metals project, so PGM. It's platinum, palladium, rhodium, gold. So this mine went on care and maintenance back in 2009. The basket of metal prices was 1/7 of what it is today. So metal prices that comprise this geological matrix are up 7x from where they were on average. And this is what we do. We have a systematic capability in finding deep value and great opportunities in our specific business model, which is buying third-party royalties all around the globe, which means we're not beholden to mining companies needing capital. So a lot of your audience could be familiar with streaming companies. What we do is we don't finance mining companies. We go look for these disparate third parties that hold royalties that they acquired through different means over the last 100 years. And we go buy those interests. What that allows us to do is we can scan the entire world of projects and look for interesting royalties over that project. We have a database that empowers us with an IP advantage to do that. This is the furtherance and continuance of that business model and that business capability that's bringing value for our shareholders. So absolutely unbelievable transaction for us. We believe this royalty is going to provide value for our investors for really generations.
Yeah, and I'd say the metals are in a pretty good spot here across the board here. So I guess talk about your 2022. You got to be pretty excited with this thing off the ground first.
We're off to a white hot start here in 2022. Really exciting for us. This has been a transaction we've been working on for a while. The seller of this was a prospector generated royalty. They had staked this land, decades ago. And so this is a royalty that's acquired at great value. It's really good risk sharing. I mean, there hasn't been an announcement like this from a royalty company in the past decade that I can remember. But it took a partnership with the seller. They were able to take a little bit of downside off the table, but they feel like they can still maximize that upside within a company like Vox and within our value creation strategy that we continue to execute, I believe, very, very well. And so as you look at 2022, we have other transactions that, hard to repeat this magnitude of success, but I'll tell you, at a company systematic level, we're doing that. The pipeline looks really strong. Metal prices, at a personal level, I believe they're going up. You and I spoke kind of earlier about inflation and those impacts. But I'm really kind of just excited for where we sit today. We're pricing in backwardation. We're trying to make our investors money, even if metal prices stagnate or go down. So, that's the protection that a royalty company like Vox offers your audience of investors is, look, if metal prices don't go up, is your investment expected to perform? We are basing our expectations off metal prices not going up. Personally, I couldn't be more bullish on what metals are likely to do, I think, over the coming weeks, months, and quarters. But we don't price that into our deals. So you can have confidence in how we're looking at our assets, our technical team, mining engineers, geologists, really doing the hard work to make sure we picked really technically strong, usually very de-risked assets that have very significant upside that we have not paid for. And so that's the business model designed for the generalist investor to have confidence in what they're investing, know that there's a technical team on the front lines doing that hard work. And I expect our business to continue to outperform, continue to generate alpha in this industry. And Rob, something I'd like to point out, we were the top performing royalty company stock price in calendar year 2021. But I think 2022, we have the potential to have, quite honestly, a much stronger year, both fundamentally, which has been great for us. And I believe that will also be reflected in the stock price at some stage.
Okay, certainly a lot to pay attention to. I appreciate that update. Again, that's the CEO, Kyle Floyd. He also is the founder of Vox Royalty Corp. Vox trades as VOX in the Toronto Venture Exchange, VOXCF on the OTCQX in the States. Again, Kyle, appreciate you taking the time for that update, and we'll certainly look forward to checking back in when you hit the wire again.
Appreciate that, Rob. Great to be on the program. Thank you.